Awesome. Thanks, everyone. And thanks to both of you guys. It's been really great to get to know you over the last couple of days and to have you up here. I'm up here with two of your favorite brands, HBO and Amazon, and I think they have a lot of great stories to tell, so I'm very privileged to be up here. Maybe we just start by hearing the basics, name, role, where you live, in case people want to stalk you, and a little bit about your professional background up to now, because you've both been with a lot of awesome brands. And let's start with you, Andrea.
Hi everyone, I'm Andrea Petrig, and I'm with Amazon Games. I have been part of Amazon Games just for 3 months, so my stats are a little bit weak, but my energy is pretty good. I would say that prior to Amazon Games, I came from Disney Streaming, and I think their setup looks really good down on 2nd Street, and I'm to swing by. My role is really marketing lead across Prime Gaming. We'll talk a lot about Prime Gaming later today, but why don't I turn it over to...
Sure. Hi everyone, I'm Christine Miller. I'm our Senior Director of CRM at HBO Max. And yeah, woo! Got some fans in the house. I've been here about a little over 2 years, so I started a few months before HBO Max launched, and have had the opportunity to build the team and the program up from zero, which has been really exciting to see how things have changed over the last couple of years. Prior to HBO, I led the CRM program at Hulu, and before that, Ticketmaster. So that is me, and my team manages all of the CRM operations. So all email, push, in-app messaging, transactional marketing product, everything under the sun that goes out through those channels goes through my team. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. I think everyone probably is pretty familiar with HBO, and everyone knows Amazon, but people may not be familiar with gaming at Amazon, so maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
I would love to. So I don't know how many people in the audience are members of Amazon Prime in the US. That's about 200 million. Well, good. You may not know that you have free benefits associated with being a Prime member that are gaming benefits. Those include free downloadable games. It includes downloadable content for the games that you already love. Everything from, Fall Guys to Valorant to Apex to League of Legends, etc. And those are available to you every month. In addition, if there's any Twitch folks in the house that really love Twitch, you get a free Twitch sub as part of your Prime membership. And I think Amazon's approach to games has been really interesting because it's, of course, creating content. Hopefully there's some Lost Ark players out here in the audience too. We just hit 20 million players on Lost Ark. And Twitch, of course, around our communities, so sort of a game you can play, communities that you can find, and then making the games you already play much better through, free skins, free player packs, etc. available through Prime Gaming.
Awesome, thank you. I've definitely learned a little bit. Maybe, Christine, we could talk about how at HBO you act on customer insights, because I love hearing some of the examples you guys use, and I think people will find it really interesting.
Sure. So I think something that makes HBO Max particularly special in this space is that instead of focusing just on science and algorithms, or just on kind of human curated content, we really have a healthy mix of both. So a lot of our campaigns for CRM, we try to focus it around both arts and science. So while the algorithms and the personalization and those kind of engines, I think customers nowadays really expect that level of personalization, which is great, and we're able to give that, and we have a really incredible data science team that powers a lot of these APIs. But it's not just about that, because I think you need that human touch as well. So we try to really make sure that every email, every push, everything has a really healthy mix of the science and the tech savvy, as well as the art behind human curation. So I've heard someone say once something about, like, I'm not going to say this exactly right, but if you think about arts and science, you think about a tomato, and it's like, science tells you that a tomato is technically a fruit, but the human logic tells you you wouldn't put a tomato in a fruit salad. So it's kind of like, if it's all algorithm, then you get a tomato in your fruit salad, right? And so we try to, just to live up to the prestige and the quality that HBO's brand, I think, has been known for decades, and by funneling that through our CRM messaging.
One thing I really appreciate about that is that it requires you to not just guess, but really ask and be close to community. So every brand has a user base, and every user base is divided into people who are either very passionate or moderately passionate or the lightly passionate folks around your brand. But having relationships with all of them, being able to glean in what are they really thinking? How can I improve things based on who you are, what you're attracted to, what you're not attracted to within the brand experience, the product experience, just makes that big difference. It does make the, some things more maybe that seem logical are intuitively actually not logical at all for some of your customers.
That's exactly right. And that is a good reminder to me that also, I think, when we think about personalization, we don't think of it just as what populates in the email or the campaign anymore. Personalization, exactly as Andrea is talking about, is about, like, you're getting this email because we've already done the personalization. So it's about the audience segmentation, and it's not so much about like saying like, hi Christine, and the first name, like that was so 2008, right? And so it's like, now I feel like it's really, the customers are expecting that if I'm getting something from a brand like HBO Max, like this is for me, and it's kind of like the age of demographic is over, and it's really about all behavior now.
One of the things that I've really been encouraging more of our CRM teams to think about in this job and previous jobs is, how do you actually invite feedback? Now, in gaming, you get the feedback whether you want it or not. It's a very passionate community. You'll hear right away, I really love that, or I really hate that. You almost never want to be in the middle. But every opportunity is a chance to get feedback. Do you have a reply available to you? Do you have a place for social where people can invite the kind of feedback that you're really looking for?
Do you want to share examples of insights that were either surprising? Like I think you had one about like kids.
Oh yeah, sure. So I think one of the things, as I'm talking about the behavior-based personalization, something that we've done is we looked at, when we first launched HBO Max, we had no data, right? Because it was just a brand new app, and we weren't going to rest on the laurels of apps in the past and the cable network. It was something really new, D2C. So we let it just run, and we kind of put out some very generic linear blast campaigns to see the reactions, and then started tweaking based on that, and tweaking. And then I think that we started to see what makes a healthy subscriber. Healthy meaning not likely to churn anytime soon. And then creating like attempts to create lookalikes, because we found that will help retention if someone just acts like they're a healthy subscriber, and then they become a healthy subscriber. And one of the things we noticed was that people that have a lot of viewing behavior on their primary profile that's around kids and family content, if they don't have a kids profile, but they add a kids profile, are significantly more likely to be retained. So we started putting a lot of emphasis with people with this kind of behavior to create a kids profile and add one to their account. And we saw that retention really went up with those profiles, which was really interesting. Just kind of pushing that lookalike behavior really made a big difference.
Maybe shifting gears slightly, obviously the theme of our session today is all about subscription businesses, and a key part of that is retention. That's paramount in the subscription business, and I think when you even say the word subscription, people automatically often think about Amazon and Amazon Prime. And so would love to just hear a little bit, maybe Andrea, about some of the key elements of your retention strategy.
I think it was good to see a lot of hands around Amazon Prime membership, and I think for myself, Prime membership really started with 2-day shipping and the ability to keep things together, and retention has really come from thinking about people's lives, being very customer-centric, customer-obsessed, as Amazon would call it, and trying to find more ways to add value. And I do think retention comes from an ability to evolve your product over time, with more and more value being added the deeper people get into the experience. So Prime Video, Amazon Music, Amazon Games, Amazon Fresh, like it's an ability to continue to extend your one price payment to more and more opportunities to delight people. So you can feel more delighted, not just that you get 2-day shipping, but that you can continue to, experience different parts of your life being enhanced in different ways.
No, that's awesome. With all these features, though, and all these channels, you mentioned all these different channels, how do you guys think about which channels to use when in different use cases? I know you guys are obviously doing all sorts of omni-channel communications, and maybe we start with you, Christine.
For sure, yeah. I think that is a great question because it's really, marketing is not, like one size does not fit all when it comes to different messaging. So for us, we have a lot of different strategies out there, from maybe just a weekly newsletter or here's what to watch this weekend to premiere a Peacemaker or whatever it is. And I think that it depends on what the goal is of the campaign. So if the goal is really more educational around here's some different content we have, here's stuff you might like, and the goal is to get people to be familiar with multiple shows or movies, then email usually works best. And we did actually do a study recently, a test in Braze that showed that even if people are receiving an email, but they're not opening it, usually in the email world, people think that an open is a success and people get really counted on open rates. But we did a study where we held out people from getting emails that would have otherwise gotten them, sent some people emails, and did this on a parallel path for a period of time, and saw that even just receiving the email, seeing the subject line, even if you don't open it, has a really high impact in viewership and conversion and these types of behaviors. So I think that like email, years ago, there was a whole thing about is email dead? And it's like, no, email's not going anywhere. Yes, it all shifted to mobile, but a lot of people use mobile to check their email. And so even just something like a subject line can be helpful. And then if they want to open it and scroll through, a lot of our emails to paid subscribers are not action-based. You're not necessarily going to click and immediately start watching a 3-hour movie. But it's really more like you see this and it goes into your mind and you see it repeated, and then you kind of, when you decide it's time to watch something, you might remember that. So that's how we really decide when to use email. Things like push notifications and in-app messaging are better for urgency. So I think if it's like, this is premiering right now, like you can turn on your TV and you will see it, or more transactional updates, or like credit cards about to expire, or just kind of fun brand messaging to just kind of embed ourselves in different parts of your day. That's where push and in-app really come into play. So we try to have a lot of omni-channel journeys within our Canvas tool in Braze, and so that way people are getting hit at different channels at different times, and you're not getting kind of overdrive of any certain one channel.
One thing I'm going to just pass along a little tidbit. I sat on a panel earlier today, and what I would normally have called life stage thinking, in this gaming panel, one of my fellow panelists talked about kind of oppositional thinking, and I really love that when you apply it to a life cycle, like customer journey, which is, what are all the ways that this could go wrong? What are all the ways that someone might veer off in the wrong path, or what are all the ways they might want to be disrupted in a negative sense through messaging? And I would say that, lots of us, develop rules or philosophies around certain content, but it's also nice to go back with a fresh eye and think about maybe there's a different opportunity for a different channel based on different customer behaviors or indications, or just what that content really is. Maybe there's a different way of experiencing it, and I do think just having that mindset of where could that go wrong and how could I do it in a different way could be really beneficial for anyone to just take a look through the things that they've planned on a regular basis.
No, I love that, because nothing ever really goes according to plan, I think, anymore. Christine, I think literally just this week, maybe Tuesday, you guys expanded to 15 more countries in Europe. I'd love to hear about how you thought about setting up the team, because there's always this balance of these big, global companies as what should be decided at the local level versus the global company, or at the mothership here back in the US. So I'd love to hear maybe first about how you thought about that, and then maybe for you, Andrea, both at Amazon and then at Disney, which is obviously super global as well.
Absolutely. HBO Max is now in 61 countries, and just 2 years ago we were in one, and that was just the US. And so when we launched, that had been the focus was just on getting it right in the US. And I feel like we did a great job there and expanded to Latin America and parts of Europe and now more of Europe. And the way that we're looking at it is this global but local mentality. So we're trying to think of certain things stay centralized for just consistency and ease of sharing data and using the same program. So we have our MarTech stack is centralized. A lot of our analytics support is centralized. Our data is centralized, so that way I can go to the LATAM team and say, oh, the custom attribute named blah, 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 and they know exactly what I'm talking about, and we can share insights and apply them in the same ways. But the things that are important to stay local, so we have local teams on site in each of these regions, is, I mean, there's obviously things like language and dialect, but then there's also just things like content availability is not the same across different regions. And there's cultural differences, and there's different holidays, there's so many things that are different that I think it would be naive to assume that our US team would be able to get it exactly right across the globe. So I think while centralizing certain important things like our tech stack and our data has made it incredibly easy to just say, oh, let me log into your account and I'll just change this and then you'll see how I did this here. And it's able to apply insights like instantly, but being able to keep the kind of the shell and the face of it local, I think that's really important.
I would say our businesses are set up pretty similar. I mean, they're content-driven businesses, and you know that you have definite local attributes and content that you want to talk about, and definitely global things that you want to make sure you distribute. And I think the only thing that I could add to that is localization and language is such a big piece, and having a very good localization team, manager, agency, whatever that you work with, that really gets your lingo, so it's less translation and more real localization. That's sort of a really key part. It might be like, oh, how do I get this done and how do I get this out? And actually, how is this going to reflect the brand that I want it to reflect in all of these markets is another really important component of internationalization. And then I would say the third thing is speed is sometimes really critical too. So you want to make sure that similarly, not everybody has the ability to put folks in region, of course, but thinking about time zones, time zone management. I think in the very early days of Disney was, you know, we launched Disney Plus globally almost right away. Was people had to work in shifts for a little bit of time, just to make sure that if anything went down, service went down, site went down, we had another issue, that there could be reaction in a very narrow period of time. So those are just two things I would add in.
I've been on both sides of the global and the local, and there's always a lot of drama there, so I appreciate you guys trying out. Maybe just finally, you know, to state the obvious, you know, you guys are both women, as am I, and are both very successful in spaces that are not always traditionally very female. I mean, digital, but also media, gaming, and a bunch of other spaces you guys have come from before that, and it's a very, very inspiring, and I would just love to hear about, you know, what inspires both of you guys every day, and then how you guys inspire others around you and empower other women, really, specifically. You know, especially after some of our conversations last night, I think we would love to hear about that.
I'll start, sure. So definitely it's not always been easy. I think coming to HBO is a real breath of fresh air in that I think just from knowing their diversity from storytelling and the importance that they put on that kind of thing is really key. So taking a similar approach to the way that we staff has been really inspiring to see. I work for a woman named Sue Kelsey, who is our SVP of MarTech and Operations, and she has been a real mentor to me and showing me how to do it right and showing me how to balance the right things. And I would say that I have kind of cut my teeth in areas that were less female focused, and it had been a challenge. So what I always decided to do when I began to manage teams was I want to be the boss that I always wished that I had, you know, before I met Sue. And so, yeah, and so I decided that from an equity standpoint, I had been on the wrong side of the gender pay gap at prior companies, and I think creating a team and knowing that my team is going to be diverse and represent the world that we're marketing to, and also that they could all sit in a room together, the men, the women, of all different shapes, sizes, and colors, and they could talk about, we all are going to share how much we make, and they'll all go, yeah, that sounds about right. You know, I don't want there to be any surprises or gotchas or whatever. I mean, because when it comes to pay, you know, we should be paid for the good work that we do and for our experience, and it doesn't always work out that way in corporate America. And so I think it just takes all of us to have that kind of integrity, to know that you go to sleep well at night because people are being treated right. And I can't control everything, but I can control that for my own personal team, and so that is where I try to focus.
I would say one important thing about being in an executive position is to make sure that you call things out when you see them. It takes a certain amount of, you know, fearlessness in a lot of cases, because often folks don't want to look at it, but I have a wicked sense of humor. I don't always put it on stage, but a lot of times I'll take pictures of my Zoom meetings that don't have any women in it, and I send them to my bosses. They can just take a little look, you know, sometimes I decorate them a little bit, or, you know, cut people in, but it's important to be able to talk about the idea that there aren't women. So, you know, especially, you know, as I've moved into this gaming role, a lot on our engineering team, and it's always a truth, like, there's not enough women here, but I can pick up the phone and say, hey, I really need you to hire some women. I'm going to introduce you to as many women as I can who work in engineering. So that networking piece is really important. That does keep me inspired, and I get like a little source of glee when I see like not just myself sometimes in these meetings representing one gender. So speaking up is important. Taking the time to be on panels like this is important, and I think, you know, in similar fashion, you know, having women around you that you can network with and complain to, and just relate different stories and share different ideas about how to address these situations where we don't see enough, either people of color in positions, women in positions. Like, it doesn't really matter, but as soon as you realize they're not reflecting the world, or I'm on a team that doesn't reflect the world, it's your job actually to make those changes. You have 5 minutes.
Thanks for the idea of screenshotting the Zoom meeting. Good luck. Help me,
yeah, I mean, I think that is one of the most important things that we do. I think when you look at our email campaigns, let's say, for example, something that makes them stand apart, besides the arts and science that I talked about before, is that you'll see little things. Like, I think of it as brand sentiment. Like, you'll see, for example, when Godzilla vs. Kong came out last year, and we did the same day premieres. The email was beautiful work of art of email, the key art, but if you look closely, the helicopters in the key art were actually whirling, and the fog was moving. And maybe a lot of people didn't necessarily stop and notice it. If they did, it's going, oh, cool, but anyway, continue. But it's like, we don't do it because it's gonna, like, that one email is gonna suddenly drive sales, but it's over a period of time, you begin to associate a brand with things that are special, things that are high quality, things that are prestige, things that make you stop and go, And so I've, my husband, who is not in this business at all, he will now look at emails from any other company, and he'll be like, this one didn't even have a video in it. And I'm like, that's right. So we're trying to, like, set the bar and want to be, like, focused on being the best in class that we can be in terms of having beautiful, dynamic, inspired, creative, but also making sure that people are getting the personalization and the science behind it that they expect.
I would say one last thing with that, and you'll just tag onto that, is, you know, as marketers, it's a pretty optimistic group. I think for the most part, you go to parties or situations like this, almost everyone's like very, very brilliant human. It's sort of taking what that is naturally and transferring it into giving people little bits of joy with every communication that they receive. And I think it's a really good principle to say, hey, did I do it? It's not like a Marie Kondo sense, but in the, did I add anything here that's gonna, do something a little bit more for people? Worked on the headline a little harder, worked on the artwork a little bit harder, that's the ability is to build a relationship with the brand. It's the front row of doing it. I think it's a very fun part.
I totally agree. I couldn't agree more. And I think that we like to show with a company like HBO Max, like, our content is fun. It's like marketing really cool things. Same with like inside gaming and music, and it's like it's fun, entertaining stuff. So we have to show that like we get it. Like, we're also fans, and we have to make sure that like if we're sending an email about you just finished watching Gossip Girl and let's get you into something new. If we know that you watched the whole series, like we should talk to you in the voice of Gossip Girl, right? Because like that's gonna be connected to you. It just is like, thank you for finishing fill-in show here and It's like that's fine, but it's not special. And I think that making things special. I had someone ask me to be like, oh, can you prove the value of adding different dynamic animated videos in the email? And it was like, kind of, but it's really more about the sentiment, and it's about doing that over a period of time. And so we can do that. It takes some work and it takes some testing, but it's not as we're so focused on conversion. One and done. Did this work? A/B test this. Hold it control. And it's like I think to think of it that way can be important in certain situations, but it's the long game. It's the long game of brand building.
So one thing that we've done in the past is hang up all the artwork in one room and invite people in. It really does, like, you get the immense experience over time, which is what we sell. Like, this is an immense experience. It's just concealed out one at a time, every day out. And sometimes you can really surround people with what that is. They get a real feel for, oh, this could go even further. Or just invest in more original work. Like, just the big impact that you're really looking for versus when you show single drops or drops at a time.
Is there one last question? Anything else? Burning questions? No? Mars getting warm. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thanks everyone for being here.